Hi everyone, I think this is recording. Um, I just wanted to make this quick video to talk about the writing process video and also to talk about something that I've been involved with recently. Over the break, I was involved in creating a workshop for people who wanted to go into teaching. If you want to go into teaching, you need to take something called the West B, which is a test that involves math, writing, and reading. I was involved in the reading workshop. And one of the reasons why we at YVCC are creating these workshops for people going into the West B is that the test is hard and a lot of people are failing. They're not doing well in it. And part of what we needed to do was to try and come up with a way to help people learn the strategies for taking tests well and to go in and be prepared. It costs money to fail. And while we're not really thrilled with the fact that you have to take those kinds of tests, we realize it is right now, that's a situation, and we're going to try and help you as much as possible. So, as I was going through and looking at the writing process video quiz that I asked you to do, I saw that quite a few people didn't do very well. And one of the questions in particular is one that people want me to, they say, well, I got the answer right, so why don't I get credit? And the question is about proofreading. The answer about the final step in the writing process is proofreading. And the question specifically asks you to take your time to spell correctly and capitalize correctly. And the word proofreading, when it's two different words, means reading of proofs. So if you're in a photography situation, you will have proofs that you can look at and that you can read. If that's a different thing than reading a text to look for typos, which is one word, proofreading. So when you write proofreading, you're actually referring to something that is different than proofreading, which is what the writing process video is referring to. Now, I could go back and I could say, okay, just because you misspelled it and you made it two words, you know the word itself, and if it was spoken, we wouldn't know the difference. And I could give you credit for that. But I decided not to, because I want you to slow down and pay attention. The first thing I want you to do is to learn the skill of reading and annotating well before you ever go into the test. Unfortunately, you're going to face a lot of testing situations, not only in this class, but also in multiple other classes. In fact, these tests are very minor compared to the kinds of tests that you're going to run into. And those tests are going to require certain skills from you. And those skills include taking excellent notes before you ever set foot in the testing environment, reading the work first, taking notes, being able to figure out what the main point is, being able to figure out what the important information is, and walking into the test with that information thoroughly understood and annotated and prepared for. If you can't do this, you're not going to be able to succeed. And so what I'm asking you for you to do in these tests is to take the same kinds of skills and apply them that you would if you were having to take something like the West B to be a teacher. Doctors have to take boards, so the nurses. Lawyers have to take the bar exam. Almost every field requires some kind of exam taking. And while I myself have extreme test phobia and despise that situation, I had to take a 3-hour comprehensive exam for my master's degree. I had to over prepare. I knew myself really, really well, and I knew if I didn't over prepare, I was going to be in trouble. And by over preparing, I meant taking notes, boxes and boxes and boxes of flashcards, retyping up those notes. So I had handwritten versions, I had typed versions, I had boxed card versions. I would go in and I would work with my thesis committee, one of the members of my thesis committee, a lovely woman from England called Margaret Jones, and I would go over to her house for tea. And we would sit down and she would quiz me on all the information I needed to know from my comprehensive exam. And I remember at one point her saying to me, Shannon, you're not studying for your PhD. I mean, really, you don't need to do this kind of work. You know the material. And I told her, I have really bad test phobia and anxiety. If I don't know this inside out and upside down so I could take this exam in my sleep, I'm not going to pass it. And so I did the work that it took and I passed and I did okay. But I had to be committed to that, and I had to know what it took. And even though it wasn't speaking to my strengths, it was speaking to my weaknesses, I had to be committed to saying, I'm going to figure this out and do it. And I did. And that's really what everybody has to do. So I could say to you, yeah, sure, you wrote proofreading when you meant proofreading, but I'm going to hold you to a higher standard than that. I'm going to say, do your work beforehand, go into the tests being well prepared, and get it right. The question asks you to, and I'm asking you to slow down and do the things you need to do to be able to be successful. So one of the things I want you to think about is your labor contract. How many hours are you putting in? Again, we expect about a 2-to-1 ratio at least in college courses. If you're not putting in 2 hours for every credit that you're taking, that is, a 5-credit class should take 10 credits worth of homework / study time. So for this class, I would expect about 15 hours a week. If that's not happening, that may be why you're not being as successful as you would like to be. So just something to think about. Look at your labor logs, look at your labor hours, be honest with yourself. If it's taking you more hours, if you're working 20 or 25 hours and still struggling, it may be that because of ESL issues or a learning disorder or who knows what. There's many things that can get in the way of success. If you're a slightly slower processor, then maybe you need to just find a way to get more time, find a way to move more slowly through college. And there's plenty of people who've done that and been successful. So there it is. That's my pep talk for you guys. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.